Hey, we should host another group build sponsored by the podcast.
Sure, but it needs to be a race car this time.
Yeah, something that can race on asphalt or dirt.
And night and different types of weather. That would be pretty cool.
And can fly.
Wait, what?
What you talking about, BG?
Hey, I got it. Rally cars.
Yes.
What date should we run the build for?
How about January 31st? It can start and go to December 31st. That's a good amount of time.
Sure, I can work with that.
Okay, but I gotta say, I'm a little concerned about the defying gravity thing. I haven't had much luck in that lately.
Join the Scale Model Car Podcast 2025 Rally Cool Rally Car Group Build and build that rally car model kit that's been sitting on your shelf ever since you brought it home from the hobby store and said, I'm gonna build that one day, because now is your chance.
Well, hey, hello, my fellow car modelers. How are you doing today? This is going to be an interesting video. I was over at Andy's the other day going through the big collection that he got, and there's tons of built-ups, whether it was the guy who built them or it looks like he bought a lot. Either way, we were going through them and kind of getting a lot of them busted up, trying to put them together so he could put them out, and he's selling them. There's some really cool items there, and there's one particular one that he wanted to show me that absolutely blew my mind. That's what we're going to talk about in this episode. I've talked about this a couple times. For those of you that really follow me, and some of my friends know that way back, when I was first getting into this hobby, there was a modeler that I really admired. His name was Don Fahrni. He would win at Salt Lake. He was always in Scale Auto. His drag cars were featured all the time. He did amazing detailing and just wonderful, wonderful craftsmanship. This is back in the 80s, you know, when there wasn't a lot of stuff involved. So he was really super ingenious with things that he came up with, thinking out of the box to use to create really very realistic race cars. Because of that, I was kind of getting my thing started here. I didn't know of any modelers in town, and I wanted to meet some people and maybe, you know, get a club going or just find people to hang out. I just was tired of building by myself and being alone, you know, with it. So I wrote a letter to Scale Auto, and they published it, and it was pretty cool. But one little thing, I was talking about what I just said. I was looking for people local and all that stuff. This particular issue came out December of 1988, and they published my right there. They published my piece right there, my letter, no satisfaction. It's kind of a long one, right? But you see, it says right there. Look at that. Look there. Matt Conti of Phoenix, Arizona, said I was frustrated in Phoenix. Could be. Anyways, after I just went through everything and had some questions and hoping to find other modelers in Phoenix, I wrote a little thing. Finally, I'd like to tell Don Fahrni that I'm a big fan of his. Frustrated in Phoenix. Well, two things that happened with this magazine that was really a turning point for my model building, my life, you know, because I really did turn this hobby into my life. I've never stopped building since that back then. I've never taken a hiatus from it or anything. This issue came out. It got a phone call from a good friend of mine and someone who, if you watch the Model Car Mafia meetings, he pops up in it, and I've mentioned him. Old friend Greg Myers called me up and said, hey, we have a club in town. Come check us out, which I did. And many of those members that were in that club are in our club today. I've known these guys for years and years, and now it just created huge, big, long-lasting friendships and fun times. The other thing is it got Don Fahrni to write me a letter saying, hey, man, I appreciate, your fandom. And he said, anytime you ever want to ask any questions about model building, you want to talk, man, I'll talk anytime. Here's my phone number, which began a friendship that we for a long time just talked on the phone or pen paled. And eventually, you know, he would come down. He was in Denver, Colorado, and he'd come down. There was a big show here in Phoenix, and he started coming to it, and we started hanging out at that show. Well, here's the thing. The issue that my letter happened to get published in, you see right there, this model was Don Fahrni's like big kabam, okay? He was really setting to bring this to Salt Lake and really kill it there. The model car has a lot of cool, very cool story behind it. But the one thing is, when they replied to me in Scale Auto, they go, well, you're in luck. Just so happens you're going to get a treat with one of Don Fahrni's builds. They did an amazing pictorial on this car. Very detailed. Take a look there. So, lots of detail in this car. He really blew it out of the water. Remember, this is, in 1988. I really believe this model could probably go to a model show today and take home an awards. And the thing about it is, I was so, like this is the type of stuff I wanted to build. I wanted to build like this. And so, Don and I sat on the phone one night, and I went through this article and asked every question I could about this model, and he told me everything on how he built it. Now, everybody knows about the Revell Bob Glidden 87 Thunderbird kit. This was built before that kit came out, so Don had to create that body. This body was built from the earlier Thunderbird Pro stocks, like the Bob Glidden 711 Pro stock, and Monogram had come out with their 87 Turbo Coupe, stock street kit. And so he combined those and created this body. And there's great stories about this, because what he set out to do was build the Bob Glidden motorcraft car. He was a huge Bob Glidden fan. But something that he did with this model is, before it was painted and all that, it was like roughed in and it was all in primer. He brought it to one of the big shows that the guys from Revell, Bob Johnson and all that, who's the man who's responsible for all the great race car kits that came from, and many other kits, but all the great race car kits that came from Monogram in the early 80s. It was Bob Johnson. So he took a look at Don's model there, and he goes, this is amazing. He goes, we're coming out with this kit. We're doing the Bob Glidden kit. We're still kind of working on it. Because of the fact that they were coming out with the Bob Glidden kit, Don chose to go a different direction, and he just made up a car and, of course, put his name on the side, which was brilliance. Now, something when I got talking to him, many of you heard me talk about HO Train handrail stanchions. I use them for Heim joints and suspension components, and I did a video right here about that. It was Don who was the one who told me about that. He was the one, he'd love going to train stores, and it got me going to train stores, because what he said, amazing stuff that you can find. I've talked about this in so many videos. Train stores, and they're going away. You don't find them that much. Don and I went over, and you look at these pictures of the suspension and everything. Oh my goodness, you see all that Heim joints and brackets and clevises and whatever the heck they're called, I don't know. All the suspension pieces on there, that was all from the train stores. That's when I learned about that stuff, was because of this model. This model, and tons of other things, this model was really important to me. That's the model that I strive to one day build something like that. A few years later, Don was coming to the model show down here in Phoenix. Probably we're talking mid-90s, possibly almost 10 years after that model debuted. And I asked him, would you bring that? Would you bust it out of mothballs and would you bring it to the show? I want to see it. And he brought it for me. And he put it in a drag class. And I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think it won, but I think it placed. And he was like, it was done. He hadn't brought this car out in years, but he allowed me to hold it and look at it. And back then, that was before digital cameras. Man, that sucks. That sucks. I didn't get to take pictures of it, but I looked over that car and just burned the images into my head. Plus, I have this great pictorial of it. Well, we lost Don a few years ago, and one question I had was, what happened to his models? His built-ups, especially his big one, this one. That's the one I really was concerned about. I was hoping that it was in the International Model Car Museum up there. I'm not saying the whole thing, but this thing right here that we're going to be getting word on that. I'm getting sidetracked. That museum is important. We have to keep it. I hope it stays alive. I know that Mark Gustafson can't continue to curate it forever and ever and ever, but I was hoping it was in that museum, and I haven't found any details that it is. But from what I have heard, the possibility is when Don passed relatives kind of took over, and he never really talked about his modeling with them. I don't know. I'm speculating, and from things I heard, the models probably got shuffled around or given to different family members, but they didn't look at him as something that important. It was just something that he did. Who knows what happened to that model? And it just always wondered me. Well, one thing I was going to do a video like this, but this has turned into more, is I have been planning for a while that this year I want to build a replica tribute to that model and build it almost exactly the way he is. The only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cheat a little, and I'm going to start with the Bob Glidden kit. I'm not going to do the body like Don did, but I am going to build a replica and try to match this car as close as possible. So that's the big thing about this car to me, this model car. I want to basically build a model of that model car. I really hope to have it to where if I get to go to Acme this year, I want to take it to Acme this year. Or, you know, it will go to Acme. It's definitely going to be an Acme build for me. I'm not going to rush it. I want this thing to be right. I've been wanting to take on a model that is going to be the one that I pour into it, and I've decided this is the one that's going to be. I will be starting that. There'll be lots of videos and everything on that, and there it is. That is just such a cool model. I'll be probably asking some things if anybody can point me in the direction to find certain things. We'll see what happens as we get going on that model, but I'm going to build it just like Don. Well, now let's go to what I told you is back last Monday. I'm at Andy's. He goes, I got to ask you something about this. And it's just in a bottom box like this. And he puts it down in front of me. And he goes, there was a letter with this. I mean, is there something significant about this? And there it was. But something's amiss. So I'm going to flip the camera around right now. Of course, I have it, and we're going to take a look at this. You got to see this. I had to have it. And my friend Andy, after I went into a trance, kind of went over what that meaning of that car or that model, and pretty much told him the story I told you. And after his eyes were done glazing over and he could hear that I was done talking, I said, I got to have this. What do you want? What are you asking for this? And he actually had it in with all the other models and with the price that he's asking. He says, my friend, so that means that much to you, you can have it. So he gave it to me as a gift. That was super cool of him. He definitely could see what that meant to me. So it's just like, I just take it. You know, it still needs to be fixed. So let's take a look at it. And so this is what Andy put down in front of me. And I was like, oh no, no way. Well, I know what you're saying. Holy cow, right? It's not it. This is a replica of the car, of the model. Kind of what I want to do. But this is just so cool. This is so freaking cool. It's kind of coming apart here. We got a lot of pieces, but I'm going to try to put this together. But let's take a close look at this. I gotta say, whoever built this, I don't know who it was, because Andy was telling me there was a letter to the person who was the new owner or curator of this model. And just look at all kinds of little parts fall apart. By the way, this is what happens to models when you build them with grocery store super glue, you know, for 99 cents. Anyways, we got all these pieces. Let's get them all out and we look at them close. But yeah, I was like, oh my goodness. It took my breath away. I thought, is this it? Is this actually it? But yeah, it is a replica, and I'll begin to show you why. Because like I said, I had seen this thing. Boy, there's little tiny parts. This is the thing. You even see this? Look at this little tiny part right there. There's one little tiny part right here. This is going to be real fun to get this all back together. Let's see, I think we got everything out of there. This is going to be, whoa. But I'll tell you, the thing about it is, whoever built this, Well, one thing that keyed it up. First thing is I was looking at the name Don Fahrni out there on the door. Don used, I remember we specifically talked about this. These are hand lettered, not too shabby. You can tell these are hand lettered. Don specifically used a rub-on letter. We discussed that. That was what really keyed it off. Also, I'm not going to knock this builder. I mean, they did a great job, but quite honestly, it's not to Don Fahrni's level. It's a little sloppy, and it's a very dull paint. Didn't use a high quality clear. There's barely any clear. The paint is totally dulled and flat. This car gleamed. The real one gleamed. Okay, it's not a top job in that regard, but there is a lot of work here, and I'm going to really give some kudos to this builder. They did their research, and they replicated the detail, and every little detail, they replicated it down perfect. Also, you can tell by the batteries, they're kind of a lot more simplified. I remember Don telling me there was a certain clamp he used. Those are just the batteries from a Pro Stock kit. He didn't do anything with the battery terminals, where Don had these little clamps down on the battery terminals. But still, it definitely, I could look at it and go, yeah, it's little things. But this guy, he did a lot of things. I mean, total attention to detail. Everything that Don did, aside from the body. This is the Bob Glidden kit, 87 Pro Stock Thunderbird. You look at all these handrail stanchions used and little cleavite jobs here that are all kind of everything that Don did. There's a whole lot of that. So this guy's attention to detail on building this model, he had probably that scale auto, and he hit everything. Maybe he knew Don, and Don told him everything at one time, like what happened with me. This right here was, it's the same exact sheet plastic that Don used, which was evergreen sheet that had the scribed lines for, making buildings and stuff like that or whatever. That's what Don used for the under the hood there, and a little bit too small of wiring. I know Don's wiring, he used MSE products only, and of course there's no MSE products in this, but everything is done exactly the way Don did it. Look at that, all that right there. So very impressive in regard of the attention to detail on this model. Mind-blowing. They really studied that model. Really done very, very close. So I'm going to try to get this. It's broken a lot, but I'm going to try to get this thing back together somehow. Kind of want to get it together for Saturday night for the model meeting. We'll see. There we go. Look at this. Also, these the wheels. I mean, the wheels. Those are definitely the Kreger drag stars that came in the Bob Glidden kit, where Don had to make the wheels on his model because at the time these were not available. There were no drag stars available. So he got a hold of some old wheels that came from some of the old MPC Pro stocks. These little 5-star wheels that were called Flies by Motor Wheel. I actually can make those in resin, so I could recreate the wheels that he made, and he just kind of cut the center out of the Pro stock wheels like this. It came in the kits before, and he put the star from Flies that came in a very early MPC Pro stock. I can do that. I would want to do that. But yeah, this is just super cool. See, it's very flat. That's the little stuff that gave it away, but there's all these little attention to detail things, these little pins that go into the carburetors when that's on there. This guy got everything that Don did with that model that was on the cover of Scale Auto. I had to have it, even though it wasn't the real thing. I had to have it, and it was so nice of Andy giving it to me as a gift, because he knew how excited I was, and thanking me for helping him out, and I appreciate that. I love helping Andy out with these kit collections when he gets them, and I can do videos and stuff, and it's just fun to go through them and help him with my car knowledge because he doesn't have that. But you know, it's nice to be appreciated in something like this that's so special for me to be a gift. That, yeah, this is going to be fun. I'm going to have to get, there's this little toe out here, but I can see everything. Like you see the steering there, the rack and pinion. It's just a bent up wire there, and that's what Don did. So pretty much everything that Don did, this individual recreated in the best way they could. Again, I'm not knocking them all. It's really, the attention to detail is there. That's just amazing. It fooled me for about 2 seconds. I had a heart attack, but I immediately just said, well, and I was like, maybe it's just degraded over time, I thought. But no, looking at it, that model would still, if it was well taken care of, the model still would look beautiful. I mean, Don did work for even back in the 80s. He used automotive clear. I believe he used automotive lacquer clear, and he buffed out, hand buffed, put tons of clear down, hand buffed. His stuff was amazing. Like I said, it would win up at Salt Lake. So that is what I wanted to show you guys. I'm just so thrilled to get a hold of this. This is just so neat. So I am going to try to get this all together for the model meeting this weekend, and I'm going to put it on the table on a little, just set it there, see what people say if they haven't watched this video. But who knows? So you will see it put together, hopefully all put back together and sitting on the table at the model meeting on my video this weekend for our club meeting. So there we go. I gotta get to work now. And so there it is, man. That's pretty crazy. So I'm going to get this thing together. I want to have it for my model club meeting. This is Wednesday night when I'm recording this. So Saturday night is my model club meeting. I want to take it there because there's guys at the model meeting that know the model, that were friends with Don, that would go up to Salt Lake and hobnob with him up there. And of course, he came down here. Can't wait for them to, like old Dave, the Don. I was talking to him on the phone today. I didn't tell him about it, and I don't know if he'll be watching this. It's going to be neat seeing it sitting. I'm going to put it right in the middle of the table, and we'll see what people react. See if they get a little, wait a second, no way, that can't be. Well, it's close, but it's just neat. How cool, man. Somebody else had the same feeling about this model as I did, and it was this guy who passed away who owned this collection. Anyways, I want to thank you all for watching and listening to my stories and your support and everything. This has been a lot of fun. This is going to just make for a fun modeling year for me, having this kind of, finding that just really pushes me even farther and more forward to wanting to recreate this model. I really want to do it, and I really want to pull it off amazing. I want to, find people that knew Don who will see this model, who have probably seen the real one, and if I can impress them, that's what I want. I don't care about awards. I want those people to go, whoa, or tell me it stinks. I like people to be truthful with me. I don't want to be, you know how it is. So anyways, we're going to wrap this up. Time to go. So here it is. You know what we say here on this channel. First of all, this is me, Luka C. Keep gluing those fingers together and keep cutting that styrene. And we will see you in the next video. Here's those darn producers.